And that when I say to be assertive, what I mean by that is you don't need to always be heard. You don't need to always be right. You don't need to always be understood. You can afford it. Your self-image is so strong and so powerful and so connected to God, so connected to your own identity that you don't need their approval. You don't need their agreement. You don't need them to say things over you.
Welcome back to the Man Maker Show. We are dedicated to helping men become stronger and more intentional leaders because the fight in every man's life is real and you were created to overcome. We know that hard times make better men, and through adversity, we find our inner warrior. Thanks for showing up and opening your mind in order to make your future greater than your past. Here's your host, Brad Wolgamott.
Welcome back to the Man Maker Show. Bradley Wolgamott coming to you once again. Hope you're doing awesome. I've really enjoyed being with you over these last quite a few episodes, and I feel like we're getting to a point where we're taking a deeper dive into some things that really are just crucial to personal development, crucial to being great men. This show is dedicated to men. I'm not anti-women. I love women. I love my wife. I love my daughters. I think you're incredible. This show is not, it's not that you're not allowed to listen as a woman, because I think that's fantastic if you do. But I just don't want you to be offended I'm talking to men, because I feel that men have lost mentorship. I believe one of the greatest challenges in our world today is mentorship for men. That may sound silly, because you may say, well, there's been mentorship everywhere. Well, that may be true, but in recent times, there is an assault on manhood. Just watch TV shows. Men are dorks or weirdos, or creepers, or they're out-of-control addicts, or they're ragers. Rarely is it just a quality human man that loves his wife, that loves his kids, that is kind and courteous and successful and making great impact in the world. It's just rare that you find a show about a great man doing great things, making great decisions, making great impact. It's just rare. It's like a fantasy. So I am here to speak to that, because I think this world is in desperate need of better fathers, of better husbands, of better male leadership. We're in need of greater mothers, great female leadership as well. But I'm here to talk to men because I'm a man. I don't feel like there's any place for me to counsel women, and I don't think women have any place to counsel men. Now, that might get some of you pissed off, but so be it. I just think men know men. Men need men to talk in man ways that only men can understand. It's my opinion. Shoot it up if you want. I don't care. What I've realized that one of the missing links for men today is conflict resolution. And I think it's led to massive problems in the man world. I think it's driven men to give themselves the excuse to drink. It's given them the excuse to cheat. It's given them excuses to gamble. It's given them excuses to rage and get mad and get big and get violent and to do stupid things, get angry and hurt people. And that's because they don't know how to handle conflict. And when getting big and loud and angry and trying to exert complete control over someone doesn't work, then they blow up, run off, and away they go. And I can remember when Shelly and I were dating, and I was dating a powerful woman, a woman that knew who she was, a woman who was much younger than me, but very strong and very confident. And when we would have arguments, she would go toe-to-toe with me. And I would get just crazy out of my mind because I couldn't win the fight by getting big and getting loud. To a point where I'm like, this is stupid. We're done. I'm out of here. And then I had to really take an honest look at myself and say, what in the world is wrong with you? Why are you trying to win an argument anyways? I mean, does that mean that your one you love now feels like she lost? She's a loser, you're a winner? Oh, that's great for your relationship. What do you gain if you get someone to submit to you? Just create false harmony. They just agree because they're tired of fighting. And sometimes when she would give up, it's because she was just tired of it. It was stupid. So I want to talk to you a little bit about conflict resolution. And you got all kinds of conflict. You got conflict with your spouse. You got conflict with your kids. You've got conflict with your coworkers. You've got conflict with your neighbors. You've got conflict with people generally in public. You know, Someone cuts you off in line, or someone's rude, or someone flips you off, or they're a bad driver, they stole your parking spot, or cut in line, or whatever the case might be. We got conflict. And so I want to talk to you about that because I think that conflict more than likely is derailing your connection. And I'm going to specifically speak to conflict from the perspective with intimate relationships, people that you love. Your children, your spouse, your parents, your best of friends, people that you love being with, and you just don't know how to do it. We talked earlier about 4 types of personalities: aggressive, passive, passive-aggressive, and assertive. And if you haven't heard that episode, I would encourage you to go back and listen to it. But the idea of aggressive, I matter, you don't matter, I'm going to be super powerful and blow you out, that's no good. Passive, I don't matter, you matter, just tell me everything, I'll do whatever you want. That doesn't work. I know people like that. Just, I'm going to be silent because I won't go anywhere. You just go ahead and be the boss man, boss woman, and I'll just do whatever you say. That doesn't work either. That leads to ultimately great problems. Passive-aggressive is, we call the chocolate dragon, just this tricky, conniving, make you feel bad if you don't agree with you. They never can tell you what they want, but they want you to read their mind. It's just a complete mess. It's conniving, and I hate it. I had to deal with that for a long time in my life. Or assertive. And assertive is when you accept that there are 2 powerful people in this conversation. No one's bigger, no one's better, no one's worse. That both people are creations of God, creations of life, powerful people that matter. You're not bigger and better. You don't get a bigger voice. You can't get louder. You're not going to accomplish things because you're taller, bigger, louder, muscular, whatever the case may be. Both people are equally powerful. Now, it is unusual that people will act this way. They'll usually go to their default system, which is their aggressive, passive-aggressive, or passive scenario. But if you can educate people, specifically the ones you love, how to be powerful and how to communicate with these 8 or 9 rules I'm going to share with you, rules, guidelines, directions, I think you're going to find yourself in a much better situation because conflict will ruin your life, but conflict is not something that you can avoid. And isn't it interesting that most people, as they get older, they get more and more bitter, more and more angry, more and more resentful. Why? It's because they didn't know how to deal with conflict. And so I'm going to give you 8 or 9 things, depending on how much time I have here, just some rules of thumb that I think will give you great value. You may choose to make them absolutes. I think it'd be a good idea, but you need to decide that for yourself, and when you do, then you will own the decision that you've made. And I talked about that on my last episode as well. So let's talk about the first thing. Number 1, in personal, close, intimate relationships, you have to make sure that your love is not a mystery. Make it clear that you love them. Make it clear that you chose them, right? I think it's very important to recognize that you chose that person. And so therefore, it's your choice that you're even in this conversation. You chose to have that child. You chose to marry that person, right? You chose to call them mother or father. And in some cases, that's a bit of a conundrum of challenges. But you can't let your love be a mystery. Because when that's the case, it increases anxiety. There's a saying that when love decreases, anxiety increases, right? When anxiety increases, love decreases. When love increases, anxiety decreases, and you're able to actually begin to have a tangible, quality conversation, right? If you're in this mode that I'm not sure I'm going to stick around, that's a problem. Danny Silk says it best. He says there's only really 2 objectives that can be accomplished in a relationship, and that is you're either committed to connection or you're committed to disconnection. He says if you're committed to disconnection, go for it. You're doing a great job. You can handle that on your own. But if you're interested in connection, then maybe I can give you some tools and equip. And if you've studied Danny Silk's Keep Your Love On, you'll hear a lot of his stuff and my stuff because I'm a huge fan of the things he teaches and shares, and I've tried to own them greatly in my life. So the second step of that is to let them know that the relationship is not for sale. It's not negotiable, right? When Shelly and I were dating, it was not uncommon for me to say, screw it, I'm not doing this again, I'm out. And I was always using this leverage point that I'm going to bag because I'd already been through a divorce. I'm not going through a bad relationship. It's your fault we're having this problem, so I'm going to bag. We had to come to a point where we took that chip off the table, and I think you have to make a determination whether you're going to do that or not. It's connection or disconnection. So if you choose connection, it means you're committed to deep conversation. And hopefully that is a commitment to working things out together. But part of the commitment to connection may be to come to an absolute confirmed conclusion that you're better off not to be together, and no one's hurt, no one's resentful, no one feels bitter, no one feels cheated, no one feels abandoned. It's just this is a bad relationship, and we should not continue this. Hopefully that's only in dating, but sometimes it happens in divorce, and that's unfortunate, and I'm not the judge of that. My point is you want to make it clear that I don't have the intention of leaving. I'm not going to use this argument as a base case for why I'm leaving, that I'm committed to getting to a place where we understand each other. So the third goal you should have in any kind of a conflict situation is to seek clarity, right? To make sure you understand how they are feeling. When we say seek clarity, typically what that means, I hope you understand me. And really what I want you to do is I want you to race to see who can understand the other person first, right? I have a couple of neighbors out here where I live that they're nasty. And their first reaction is attack and assault and loud and swear and anger. And I have the opportunity to deal with these people on a regular basis. And I can either be nasty back and get big and flare up and tell them to F off and, call my lawyer and you can do your thing and just cause a fight. Or I could choose to not say, I'm going to threaten you. I'm not going to be the big person that's going to try to scare you off. I'm going to really seek to understand, where is this coming from? What is it that we can agree upon? How do we find our way through this little issue? And it's usually a little issue made into a big issue because their learned behavior is the only way they get things done is to get big, ugly, and nasty. And then people kind of go, oh my God, whatever you need. And they get what they want because they've gotten big and nasty. That's not a way to do it. So seek clarity on their feelings. Get a clear understanding of what's going on behind the scenes, right? Recognizing that when I say be assertive, what I mean by that is be powerful in your mindset of I can afford it. All right? And we'll call this your fourth step because I think it stands alone. And that when I say to be assertive, what I mean by that is you don't need to always be heard. You don't need to always be right. You don't need to always be understood. You can afford it. Your self-image is so strong and so powerful and so connected to God, so connected to your own identity that you don't need their approval. You don't need their agreement. You don't need them to say things over you. If you're having a major issue with someone, you're in such a strong position that you get that judgment for mercy feeling with them, that they're just going to be all up in your face and all going to be picking on you and nasty. You can't giggle because that'll really piss them off, but you need to be in a place where you're like, I really feel bad. And you can't say this because it's not the right thing to say. This is not going to create connection. But in your mind, you're saying, it's really sad that you are so far from your own personal identity as a human being, close to the grace of God, that you're having to attack me to justify yourself. I wonder what's broken. I wonder what hurts. I wonder what pain. I wonder what secrets you're dealing with that is causing it. And I don't really want to know the answers. I'm just building a case for compassion. I'm building a case to understand that except by the grace of God, there go I. I could have been down the same road. I could have been in the same situation, and thank God I'm not. I'm going to trade my judgment for mercy. It puts me in a place to where I don't need to fight him. I can afford it. I think Bill Johnson said it best. I think they were in line one time, and they're going to a movie theater, and someone just cut in front of him, and he is with a guy, and the guy says, whoa, did you see that? That person just cut in front of us. Doesn't that make you mad? We're late for the movie. And Bill's like, I can afford it. And I adopted that in my life, that when someone's nasty to me, I just say, I can afford it. I don't need to fight that neighbor. I don't need to fight that child. I don't need to get aggressive with one of my kids when they're being aggressive with me. I don't need to flare up. I can afford it. Stay calm, right? Be the assertive, big, powerful person that doesn't need to act like it. Right? You just exude this grace, and that's part of being assertive. That's part of being a powerful person. And that leads me to, I think it's my sixth one. I don't know. I look track my numbers, but that's called exhibiting self-control. And I'm going to promise you something. This is a challenge. When you adopt this method of communication, people are going to think you're trying to kill me with kindness. You're trying to be super nice and gooey me up so that I see your way. They're going to think you're being passive aggressive. When I made this suggestion with my kids, I can remember specifically one of my sons. He was really skeptical of what I was trying to accomplish. He thought I was trying to trick him. And I get it because I'd been the bear in the room for the longest time, and I'd always been the loud, big, aggressive, nasty person. And I'm trying to adjust. And when he would see my new behavior, he thought I was trying to trick him. And he never said that, but I felt like he was waiting for the other hammer to drop. I was coming inside, nice, and boom, I was going to hit him with the left hook, and he didn't see it coming because that had been my behavior. So I had to be patient with that. But the idea of exercising self-control, it just basically means that you're going to be bigger than the problem. You're never going to allow the situation to be bigger than the truth that God loves you. You're imperfect. You're going to make mistakes. They can make mistakes. We're going to get through this. We're going to find a way. Because as soon as you drop the love, as soon as you start acting in a way of control, anxiety increases, love decreases, and communication falls apart. If you feel this happening, you got to stop. You got to reconnect at the love part. I can remember many times being in conversations with people and they're getting a little bit hot and say, hold on. My apologies. I didn't mean to go down that road. My name is Brad and I'm your friend. Can we start over? Let me say it this way. I want to know what you're saying. I want to feel your feelings. Help me understand, right? The old Jerry Maguire, help me help you. He stole that line and ruined it, but it's a really important value. Help me help you. Unfortunately, people think that you're now, look at them as a charity case and they don't want you to help them anymore. So you have to say it in a way that they genuinely understand and believe through your exercising of self-control that you're saying, look, I choose to listen. I choose to understand you first, even though you may never understand me. I'm not choosing to understand you so that you'll understand me. I'm choosing to understand you because that's my number one goal. And if I understand you and you believe me and you trust me, then there might be an opportunity for me to explain my position so you understand me. This is how we play big. It's called a deep fascination to understand what's going on under the hood, behind the veneer. We're all wearing a mask. We're all hiding something. We're all dealing with something. And that isn't a negative thing. It's just reality. Nobody knows everything that's gone on in your life. Nobody, not even your spouse. You've been with for 30, 40 years. I mean, maybe that's not true, but I don't think they know every thought you ever had. I don't know if they know every demon you've ever dealt with. I don't know if they deal with every situation in your life. I doubt it. I mean, it's kind of an impossibility, but I suppose there's maybe one or two people like that. But in reality, nobody really totally knows until way, way, way late in the game, and you've been married for 40 or 50 years, and maybe at that point you've got it. But my goal is I want to be my best so that I can talk to your best. If I act at my worst, then I'm going to get your worst. But if I can raise my level, if I can create a deep fascination, if I can exercise maximum self-control, if I can race to be the first one to understand you, then there's a great chance that I'm going to see your best. But if I don't do this, I'm going to get your worst. I'm going to get your angst. I'm going to get your bitterness. I'm going to get your resentment. I'm going to get things from the past that are now flaring up and sound like words and actions and things that I don't even know where the heck this stuff's coming from. But all the pain in your life is now getting dumped onto the battleground. Because I didn't exercise self-control, I woke up the worst. If I exercise my self-control, if I stay calm, then maybe I can see your best. And I can get to know what's going on. I want to race you to see if I can understand you before you understand me. Not in a competitive way. It's just my overall goal. I'm taking the role that it's my job to understand you. It's my job to understand you. Most people think it's my job for you to understand me. And that's a problem. And that's why we seem to get into these issues where we have these fights with people. right? We have the three C's that seem to happen. I'm gonna call this one of my rules. I think this is number 6 or 7, but never drop the three C's: complain, condemn. What are they? Complain, condemn, or criticize. Okay, just don't do it. Right? It's like I see people keeping score with each other. Like, who did the most dishes, or who did the most this, or I did that, or like, well, I remember and it's like you have this little scorecard, and you criticize, or you condemn, or you complain, or maybe the 4C would be compare. You got to dump those guys. Your kids are not your competition. Your parents are not your competition. Your in-laws are not your competition. Your spouse is not your competition. Your spouse is to be a helpmate, to complete you. You're there to complete them. They're there to complete you. If you both understand, you're both acting powerful, if you're both acting assertive, and you're both dedicated to helping the other person have the highest confidence self-esteem in themselves, then life's going to be awesome. But if you think their role is to build you, that's a problem. It is their role, but you have to understand that your role is most important, and that is to build them. And hopefully, as you build them, they get to a certain level of confidence that they begin to grow into their role, and that is to grow you. Okay? Now, not only is it my job to grow my wife and my children, it's also my responsibility to grow me. I don't sit here and say it's your job to grow me. It's my job to grow me. But in reality, it is your job to grow me. But I don't sit here pointing the finger, you're not growing me. No, yeah. And we play this competition, and we create this anxiety increase, which means love decreases. I've watched a lot of people when the anxiety increases, boom, they go to their phone. Right? That's like their hiding place. Even though you're still in wide open public, all of a sudden they're on their phone, or they're connecting, or they're acting like they're busy, or they have work to do, or there's things going on. They instead of connecting and saying you matter and I love you and this is critical and I'm gonna find a way to be so committed to our relationship. I'm gonna work through this and find positives. They just withdraw, and that is a commitment to the ecosystem of disconnection. And that commitment to the ecosystem of disconnection creates greater anxiety, which decreases love, which creates more broken relationships. And I don't care if it's with your neighbors, with your spouse, or with your kids, it's a major issue. And I think that's probably why I have this one rule, and that is that Shelley and I, we don't make fun of each other. We don't chip at each other. Can I just encourage you not to do this? Don't chip at your kids. I mean, most of you don't, but some do. Good Lord. Don't chip at your spouse. Don't make fun of them. Don't tease them. If they've done something wrong in their life, don't expose them, right? I have some people that feel like it's their duty to talk about their partner's failures in life. Like, oh my God, that's so mean. And I don't know why people feel like that's okay, but I don't think any of us want that being done to us. So, right, don't chip. Encourage, uplift. If you got something that's chippy, then talk about it in your private time and have a conversation that is solution-based, that is powerful and assertive, so you're two powerful people looking for a resolution. And this is what I call getting in the car. And so I'll wrap this up with my last tip, and that is, we've talked about the CAR, but get in the car. Commitment to action that has the result. What I mean by that is I want you to be committed to consistently take these actions that will give the result of the other person feeling loved. I've talked about this in past episodes where, my dad was rough on me. Sometimes physically, a lot of times mentally and emotionally. And I'd ask my mom, I don't get it. And she would say, it's because he loves you so much that he's afraid you're going to do the things he's done. And I'm like, that doesn't feel very loving, okay? The commitment to his action didn't give me the result of feeling loved. So most of my life, I was very insecure about my love for my father, and a lot of things I did were reactions or overcorrections or whatever as a result of that broken belief. It's not his fault. I still have to own my own decisions. My point in telling you this is if you're in a relationship, I want you to be absolutely committed to taking the kind of actions that affirm your friends, your partners, your workmates, your kids, right? I want you to consistently work to be a greater server, a greater edifier, a greater uplifter. Nobody gets better by tearing them down. Now, I understand tough love. I understand the boys, right? And, when I was growing up and I was competing and we'd, bash each other. I understand the value in that. I'm not talking about this super soft world where everybody gets a participation trophy and everybody's fully loved on. It's just butterflies for everybody. I don't think that builds men. But at the same time, if I'm going to be a man and I'm going to be in relationships, I need to know how to be assertive without being aggressive. Right? I need to learn how to communicate that you matter, that this relationship is not for sale, that I enjoy our time together, that you matter to me. And I'm not going to reduce my level to your level, and I'm not going to drag you down to make me feel comfortable if I'm already down. If I'm here, I'm bringing you to here. If you're here, I'm coming to here. I'm going to raise the level, whatever it takes to create a deeper level of connection. The commitment to consistent action that the other person feels loved. If my dad was doing things and he thought he was expressing love and I felt unloved, then that's not the car I'm talking about. So you need to ask the partners that you're in covenant with, do you feel loved by me? Am I taking the kind of action that make you feel loved? You matter to me. I'm in this for the long haul. Reason, season, lifetime, I believe this is lifetime. What I need to know is, am I connecting with you? Do you sense that you matter to me, that I'm committed to being consistent in my actions, that you feel valued? Because I want to raise. I want strong, bold, confident men and women. No one needs to be passive. No one needs to be a trickster, the chocolate dragon, the passive aggressive. No one needs to be a fly on the wall or a big animal. What you need to do is be bold and confident so much that you don't need to overreact. What's the old saying? You can react without thinking, but you can't respond without training. Train yourself in these steps. Train yourself to develop that deep fascination. You'll never be listened to until you have proven to the person that you're working with that you have listened to them. Be the person that wins the race to prove that you are listening. Understand them. This is what I hear you saying. This is how I think you're feeling. Am I on point here? Yes, that's right. Okay. How do we move forward? First of all, I'm sorry. Can you forgive me? I believe I understand this. What's our solution? And then you begin to move forward. And I'll talk about that more in future episodes. But for now, I hope that helps you a little bit. That was a very action-packed, content-rich 7-8 steps for conflict resolution. But I believe if you want to have a rich life, you need to have rich connections. There's no richness in isolation. And some people play it safe by being disconnected, and I don't think it's safe at all. I think it leads to early death. I think it leads to misery. I think it leads to loneliness, it leads to bitterness, and you don't make an impact unless you're making contact. So let's be committed to developing deeper relationships. As men, let's rise above, let's be assertive, let's make the connection, let's let people around us know we love them, they matter, they value, and I'm racing you to see if I can understand you before you understand me. And if that's the case, you win. All right? Bradley Wolgamott, Man Maker, out.